Hello and welcome to Stamper School. This is Julie Maxon, the Maine Stamper. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I live in Maine, USA. These short lessons in Stamper School are on the basics of Stampin' Up products and intended to give you the confidence you need in paper crafting, whether you're a complete beginner or an entirely experienced stamper. In today's class, we're going to talk about cardstock, specifically Stampin' Up cardstock, and card bases. So let's talk a little bit about cardstock first. The Stampin' Up cardstock is fantastic, and there's lots of benefits to that as well. So, of course, matching colors. Stampin' Up has all of their color families, so you can get cardstock, ink, markers, blends, all kinds of things that will coordinate beautifully together. So you never have to guess what color goes with what, which red matches which red. You'll have everything that you need at your fingertips. Now, cardstock comes in 8.5 by 11, which is what I have right here. 8.5 by 11 is perfect to create two A2 size card bases out of one sheet. And we're going to be making a couple of card bases today in Hotdog and Hamburger formation. If you've never heard of that before, you're going to learn a little bit about that today. Cardstock also comes in 12 by 12 sheets, and if you're a scrapbooker, 12 by 12 is perfect. The Stampin' Up 12 by 12 is limited in colors you can get, but some of them are available. So we're focusing on the 8.5 by 11 because that is mostly what I use. I am a card maker and I am making cards all the time. Now, the basic card cuts, you're going to take your 8.5 by 11 and you're going to cut it in half. This is going to be the hamburger cut. So the hamburger cut is probably the most common. You're going to come to 5.5 inches on your paper trimmer and you're going to cut your paper in half. So obviously 5.5 plus 5.5 is 11. So now you've got two card bases right here. We've got two hamburger card bases. Now when you fold these in half, you can just fold them in half and score them. I like to use my trimmer, and I like to score it right here on my paper trimmer at 4 1/4. And I actually go just a little bit over 4 1/4, just a tiny bit. And I use the scoring blade. Now the scoring blade is the lighter colored blade. So we're going to score that at just over 4 1/4. It's got a little bit of a line here. You can't really see it, but there is a line there. And then at this point, I'm going to bend it over and line up the edges. And you're going to see that there's like a bow here. See how my paper is still bowed? It's not perfectly flat yet, even though I have my edges lined up, even though there's a crease in it. And I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to push that bow outward and just smooth that line down just like that. And then when we open it up, we have a really beautiful crisp line, and that is fantastic. Sometimes if you just fold them over willy-nilly, you're going to get the feathering out of the middle, and the crisp line really is what you want to go for if you want that professional card making look, right? So just use your bone folder, use your score tool. I find that that's much easier. So this is an A2 size card base, and this is the basic hamburger cut, right? So again, I could do the same thing here with this one. Now you can use this in the vertical or the horizontal, so your card can open like this as well, right? So even though we've cut it this way, you can still use your card base in two different directions depending on how you decorate it. Now something else I wanted to point out about the Stampin' Up cardstock is that not only are there matching colors, but this cardstock is dyed all the way through. So they dye right through all of the fibers. So if you rip cardstock in half from Stampin' Up, you're going to see color all the way through. You're not going to see a white core unless they have a specific paper with white core. But when you rip this apart, you're going to have the continuity of color all the way through, which is really fantastic. So we just talked about the hamburger cut. Let's talk about the hot dog cut now. So for the hot dog cut, we're taking the same 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, but we're going to rotate it in our trimmer and we're going to actually cut it at 4 1/4. So I'm going to line this up at 4 1/4 down here at the bottom, which is probably really hard to see, but I like to use the bottom one when I do 4 1/4. And we're going to just cut it in half this way. So again, we're taking our 8.5 inch piece width of cardstock. 4 1/4, 4 1/4 is 8.5. Now we have really long cuts. So see the difference between the first card base that I cut, which would have been like this, and now we have a really long, this is the hot dog cut. Now we're going to score opposite. We're going to score it at 5.5. So I'm going to bring this up at 5.5. And we're scoring the 11-inch length at 5.5. Now I have to remember to move my cutting blade out of the way. That's the darker blade. So again, we're going to go to 5.5. We're going to score it at 5.5. And we are going to have a tent fold card basically. So again, I'm going to just put my ends together, make sure they line up nicely, bring in my bone folder and push that little bowed section to the end. And this time we have the hot dog cut, right? So we can create a tent fold card that's going to open this way. And again, you can also do it in the landscape position and open it this way. So those are your two basic kinds of cuts for your 8.5 by 11 inch cardstock. It gives you a great variety of what you can do with it. I always recommend using your bone folder. Getting that really great crease starts with scoring your paper first. And just a couple of tips on your cardstock. Please keep it out of the sunlight because the cardstock will fade. So keep your cardstock somewhere secured in a nice dark location. A drawer, a cabinet is perfect if the sunlight doesn't hit it. Lower humidity, obviously very beneficial to cardstock. Paper is going to suck up the humidity in your room. So I always run an air conditioner in the summertime because humidity is really hard when your paper is wet. It's hard to work with. And I always recommend you use your cardstock and make some cards and send some cards too, right? You don't want to just have this piling up in your room. You want to be able to play with it and send it out. Now I want to talk briefly now about two other kinds of cardstock Stampin' Up! Pads available. They have a basic, which is 80 pound, and they have a thick, which is 100 pounds. Now I like to use the thick cardstock for card bases because it is really thick. The white and the vanilla come in the thick. For the basic white, the regular cardstock, this is the same weight as all of the colorful cardstock that Stampin' Up! Has. I use this a lot for stamping on. I also use it for inserts, and I use it for layering. So let's talk about our first layer on our card base. You can get 4 inserts or 4 card front layers with 1 sheet of cardstock. So for this, I cut mine at 5 1/4. And I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to do this other one at 5 1/4 too. Now, if you have a good paper trimmer like the Stampin' Up! One, and you have a nice blade in it. Now remember, blades are used up. They have to be replaced on occasion. Now I have 2 that are exactly 5 1/4 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and put both of them in at the same time. And I'm going to go to 4. I'm doing inserts here. I'm actually going to cut 2 of these at the same time. The Stampin' Up! Trimmer allows you to cut 2 at a time of your cardstock, and that really does save you on time. If you're looking for savings on time, you're making a lot of cards, don't be afraid to use 2 at a time. So I just created quickly with a few basic cuts 4 inserts, or 4, so if you have a darker card base you want to put an insert in, this is the nicest size here that basically gives you the perfect insert but still has a little bit of a surround, or you can use it on the front if you're layering. So the 5 1/4, the 4 by 5 1/4, that's what this size is. It is the perfect front layer for your card base, unless of course you want to go a little bit smaller, and in that case you just go down in 1/4 inch increments. So you can get, again, 4 inserts or 4 layering pieces out of 1 piece of cardstock, and you're going to get 2 card bases again out of 1 piece of cardstock. So make sure you're playing with your paper. That is the most fun, right? So play with your paper. Don't be afraid to chop it up and use it. And if you have any questions on cardstock, just leave them in the comments and I will definitely get back to you. I appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit. If you found this class helpful, please let me know. And if you have a product topic you'd like me to cover in a future lesson, I would like to know that as well. Stay creative and see you in the next session of Stamper School. Bye, everybody.